interesting story. And this story happened a long, long time ago. So I'm telling you the story of God who has no hands. From the very beginning, people have been aware of God. They could feel Him, although they could not see Him. And they were always asking in their different voices who He was and where He was to be found. Who is God? They asked the wise men. What does He look like? Has He a body like us? No, He has not got a body. He has no eyes to see with, no hands to work with, and no feet to walk with. But He sees everything and He knows everything, even our most secret thoughts. And where is He? He is in heaven and on this earth. He is everywhere. What can He do? Whatever He wishes. But what has God actually done? What He has done is all that has ever happened. He is the creator and master who has made everything, and all things that He made obey His will. He cares and provides for them all and keeps the whole of His creation in the most wonderful harmony and order. In the beginning, there was only God. Since He was completely perfect and completely happy, there was nothing He needed. Yet, out of His goodness, He chose to create. And everything that He willed came into being. The heavens and the earth, all that is visible and all that is invisible. One after another He made the light, the stars, the sky, and the earth with its plants and animals. Last of all, He made the human beings. Man, like the animals, was made out of the particles of the earth, but God made him different from the animals and like Himself. For into His body, which would die, He breathed a soul which would never die. Many people thought this was just a tale. How could someone with no hands and no eyes make things? If God is a spirit who cannot be seen or touched or heard, how could He have made the stars that sparkle overhead? Or the sea which is always astir? The trees and the flowers and the scent they shed around them? Perhaps He can make invisible things, but how can He make the visible world? It is all very well, they thought, to say that God is everywhere, but who has set their eyes on Him? How can we be sure He is everywhere? They tell us He is the master whom everything and everybody obeys, but why on earth should we believe that? And really, it does seem impossible. We who have hands could not do these things. So how could someone who has hands do them? And can we imagine the animals and the rocks obeying God? The animals do not understand when we talk to them, so how can they be obedient? Or the winds and the sea and the mountains. You can shout and scream and wave your arms at them, but they cannot hear you, for they are not even alive, and certainly won't obey you. Yes, that is how it seems to us. But as you shall see, everything that exists, whether it has life or not, in all that it does, and by the very fact of it being there, actually obeys the will of God. God's creatures do not know that they are obeying. Those that are inanimate just go on existing. Those that have life move and go on living. Yet every time a cool wind brushes your cheek, its voice, if you could hear it, is saying, Lord, I obey. When the sun rises in the morning and colors the glittering sea, the sun and its rays and the water are all whispering, My Lord, I obey. And when you see the birds on the wing or a fruit falling from a tree or a butterfly hovering over a flower, the birds and their flight, the tree and the fruit and its fall to the ground, and the butterfly and the flower and its fragrance are all repeating the same words. I hear my Lord and I obey. At first, there was chaos and darkness was on the face of the deep. Then God said, let there be light. And there was light. Before that, there was only the deep, an immensity of space with no beginning and no end, indescribably dark and cold. Who can imagine that darkness, that coldness? When we think of the dark, we think of night, but our night would be like a brilliant sunshine in comparison to that darkness. When we think of cold, we think of ice. But ice is positively hot if you compare it with the coldness of space. The space that separates the stars. As hot you might think as a blazing furnace from which no heat can escape. In this measureless void of cold and darkness, light was created. There appeared something like a vast fiery cloud, which included all the stars that are in the sky. The whole universe was in that cloud, and among the tiniest of stars was our own world. But they were not stars then, as yet there was nothing except light and heat. So intense was this light and heat that all the substances we know, iron, gold, earth, rocks, water, they all existed as gases, as insubstantiate as air. They were fused together in one vast flaming intensity of light and heat. A heat that would make our sun today feel like a piece of ice. This raging fiery cloud of nothingness, too huge to imagine, moved in the immensity of freezing space, which was also nothingness, but infinitely vaster. The fiery mass was no bigger than a drop of water in the ocean of space. So imagine, this is the ocean of space, and this is our world when it entered. It's too small compared to the immensity and nothingness of space, which is also too cold. Now, as this cloud of light and heat moved through the empty space, little drops fell from it. So imagine you're carrying a glass of water. Now, when this cloud of light and heat moved through the empty space, little drops fell from it. So you try to move this one and you try to spin. Little drops fell from it. Like if you swing some water out of a glass, some of it holds together while the other breaks up in little drops. The countless hosts of stars are like these little drops. Only, instead of falling, they are moving around in space in such a way that they can never meet. They are millions of miles away from each other. Indeed, they are so far away that it takes the light of some of them millions of years to reach us. Do you know how fast light travels? Who knows how fast light travels? Okay, the children would answer 100 miles, 200 miles, 1,000 miles an hour. No, much faster. It travels 186,000 miles, not per hour, but per second. Imagine how fast that is. It means that in 1 second, it can travel 7 times around the earth. So, and do you know how big the earth is? 25,000 miles. If we were to drive at 100 miles an hour continuously all day and all night long without stopping, it would take us more than 10 days to cover that distance. And yet, light covers it 7 times in 1 second. You do a click, and light has already gone around the earth 7 times. So every time we do a click, light has already gone around the earth 7 times. Can we do a click of our fingertip? Oh, that means light has gone around the earth 7 times. That's how fast light travels. So can you imagine how far some of these stars are, that it takes their light 1 million years to reach us? Then there are so many stars that the scientists have calculated if each of them were a grain of sand. Each, just one of this sand is equal to 1 star. All the stars together would cover up the whole state of Alabama. It's a state in the in America, up to a height of 200 meters. All of these represent the stars in the universe. Up to a height of 200 meters. And just one of these stars is our very own sun. Among those thousands of billions of grains of sand is our sun. And a millionth part of this grain is our earth, an invisible speck of nothingness. One wouldn't think so, because the sun doesn't look so big. But that is because it is so far away. The light from it takes about 8 minutes to reach us. And if we were to travel that distance at 100 miles per hour, it would take us a little more than 106 years to reach the sun. Thus, in fact, if this is the sun, one of its rays could contain 22 Earths. So this is the size of the Earth if we compare it to the sun. One of its rays is equal to 22 Earths. And the entire size of the sun is equal to 1 million Earths. That's how big the sun is. Now, when God's will called the stars into being, there was no detail He did not plan. Every scrap of the universe, every speck, which you might think too tiny to matter, was given a set of rules to follow. To the little particles, which are like smoke, like vapor, which could only be distinguished by light and heat, moving at a fantastic speed, God said, as you become cold, you shall come closer and become smaller. And so, as they cooled, they moved more and more slowly, clinging closer and closer to each other, occupying less and less space. The particles assumed different states, which man called the solid, the liquid, and the gas. So you should have 3 identical glasses. We used one material only, and that is for the solid, ice, liquid, water, and an empty glass of water. Okay? Now, everything we know is either a gas or a liquid or a solid. And which of these 3 states it is at the moment depends on how hot or cold it is. Then God gave other instructions. Each of the tiny particles was given a special love for a certain particle and a special dislike for certain others. Some were attracted to others. So you drop this one, then you take. So if you notice here, some particles like other particles, while other particles don't like other particles at all. is just like human beings. They like some and refuse to have anything to do with others. In this way, they combined themselves and formed into different groups. Give the water a little swirl, and the water moving, drop the bits of paper in the circumference. Okay. Now, in the solid state, God has made particles cling so closely together that they are almost impossible to separate. They form a body which will not alter its shape unless one applies force. So, find a rock that's easy to break. So this is an example of a solid. Then you break it with a hammer. Then you show the broken pieces. So, even if we applied force, what you see here still remains to be solid. If a piece is broken off, the particles still cling together. If, for instance, you start chipping a flint, the flint and the chips still remain solid pieces of stone. What else did you say to the solid? The solids will always go downwards. Can I have your two hands? Okay. 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 So where does the solid go? It always goes downwards. Okay. So even if I throw a rock, at some point it will go up, but eventually it will go down because it is the rule that it has to follow. Solids always go downwards. So you move. You're done with the solid. You notice? You're giving order. So after particles settled, like and dislike, this is combination, saturation. The idea is combination, saturation. Now you isolate solid. You isolate liquid. Okay. So let's move on to the liquid. When it came to the liquids, God said, "You shall hold together, but not so very closely, so that you will have no shape of your own. You will roll over each other. Thus, you shall flow and spread, filling every crevice, every hollow on your path. You will push downwards and sideways, but never upwards." That's the way we can put your hand in the liquid. But we can never put it inside a solid. Not only that, you will have no shape of your own. Instead, you will take the shape of your container. Now let's move on to the gases. God said, "Your particles shall not cling together at all. They can move freely in all directions." And as the particles were all different individuals, you can notice here the gas. So you ask the children who are at the back, can you smell it? It's better if it's an effective perfume or scent. So, can you see the gas? No,
No.
but we can feel it, right? We know it's there. Because it has to follow the rule that it shall go upward in all direction, we know that it is there. Now, you can give some example at home. For example, when your mom is cooking food, you're still at the doorway, but you know what food your mom is cooking. Why? Because gases move upwards and in all directions. So the gas already moved towards the doorway. That's why you can smell the scent of your food. Next. But as the particles were all different individuals, they did not become solid, liquid, or gas at the same time. At a certain temperature, some remain solid. Please come forward. And still others became gaseous. Now, please give it 1 minute. Now, what do I have here? I have solid. It's a rock. Do you notice anything happening to it? No. Now, take a look at this one. It's a wax. What's happening to it? It's starting to melt. Oh, look at this one. It's solid. What happened to it? It became liquid. Now look. Not only that, some of it has turned into smoke, which is gas. This one became liquid. This one remained solid. This one is starting to boil. Can you see the smoke coming from the liquid?
Yes.
Okay. So we can see here that the temperature affects the state of matter. Now let's move forward. And so while obeying these laws, the little drops of nothingness that was to become our world, the blazing mass went on spinning and spinning around itself and around the sun in the tremendous cold of space. And as time went on, the outer ring of this mass began a dance. It's called the dance of the elements. The particles that were on the outermost edge became cold. This one. And shrank. Huddling together, they hurried towards the earth. But as soon as they approached the hotter part of the earth, they became hot again, and so they went up again to the space. Like angels, they carried a bucket of hot, cold, burning coal into the space and returned with some ice. How marvelous it is and how simple. If you become hot, you expand. And as you expand, you become lighter and lighter. And as you soar upwards like a bubble of air in the water. But if you become cold, you shrink and fall as a grain of sand sinks into the bottom of the pond. Because of this law, the earth gradually became a ball of fire to the earth we know. This dance went on and on and on for a long period of time. This was the law that the tiny radiant particles obeyed as they danced their dance. Particles too minute to be seen or even imagined, yet numerous enough to have produced the world. For hundreds, thousands, millions of years, this dance went on. Finally, the particles settled down like tired dancers, and one after another became first liquid, then solid, and as they became solid or liquid, some of them joined others, which they were attracted to, forming new substances. The heavier ones went nearer to the heart of the earth, and the lighter ones floated above them. So, you have here, right? This is oil, water. Okay. So, please take the water. Okay, so your water is the base. Because in your speech you say the heavier ones went at the bottom. You pour the molasses or honey. to say. Now the lighter ones. Floated. Okay, do not forget the base is water. Okay, so you can show this to them. No need. No need to cover the water. So you need to practice. You might tremble. You can do that. A thin scum was formed like the skin which forms on milk when it is boiled, left to cool. It seemed as if the earth had taken some shape, but the elements inside this skin were still very hot and they felt trapped. They wanted to get out. What could they do? Otherwise, they had to follow the law of God. What's the law? If you become hot, you expand. But there was no place to expand. So what did they do? For this one, make sure that you transfer the vinegar to a separate container. Okay? What did they do? There was no place to expand. So, they broke the skin. And it was a terrible fight. The water that formed on the surface turned immediately into vapor and went up as the hot stuff came out from the inside of the earth. There were also ashes, and a veil of cloud was drawn to cover the earth, so that nobody was going to see what was going on. The sun was ashamed of them. This happened for quite some time. Just imagine the skin of the earth bursting. So it's like very chaotic. Eventually, the fighting ceased. As everybody cooled down, more and more gases became liquid. More and more liquid became solids. The earth itself shrank and became like a wrinkled apple that has been left in a cupboard. The wrinkles are the mountains, and the hollows are the oceans. For as soon as the rocks had cooled down, water was able to return to the earth, and it rained and rained and cooled down. Water was able to return to the earth. And the water being liquid, remember, it fills every hollow and crevice found in its path. Thus, the oceans were formed. Above them was the air that we breathe. The cloud had disappeared. The veil was withdrawn. The sun would once again smile upon its beautiful little daughter, the earth. Rocks, water, air. Solid, liquid, gases. Today, as it was yesterday, millions of years ago, God's laws are obeyed in the same self-way. The world spins around itself and around the sun. And today, as it was millions of years ago, the earth and all of its elements and compounds it's made up of, as they fulfill their tasks, all of them whisper